Hi, for this video, we are going to talk about division of radicals. So in dividing radicals, there are a lot of lessons integrated for you to divide radicals. The first one is the laws of radicals, of course, and then the laws of exponent, as well as in rationalizing the denominator. So let's divide these two examples. So in example number 1, we have the cube root of 24m raised to the 7, and we need to divide it by the cube root of 3m. So according sa laws of radicals, specifically sa quotient law, if they have the same index, we can just rewrite them in a single radical sign. Given that the dividend will be the numerator and the divisor will be the denominator. And just divide them simply. So we have cube root of 24 over 3, that is simply 8, and m raised to 7 over m, that is simply m raised to the 6. So how did we get that? Using the laws of exponent. Now, if they have the same bases, you can just subtract their exponents. So we have 7 minus 1, that will result to 6. Kaya natin nakuha si m raised to 6. And then, take a look at the quotient if pwede pa siyang i-simplify. So, we have cube root of 8. Yes, meron bang cube root si 8, no? And that is 2. And cube root of m raised to the 6, that is equal to m squared. Basically, si 6, dinivide lang siya natin dun sa index. And that will result to 2. So, therefore, the quotient for example number 1 is 2m raised to the second power. How about for example number 2? So we have square root of 24m squared n divided by square root of 3mn squared. So again, they have the same indices. Therefore, we can just rewrite them in a single radical sign. So we have 24m squared n all over 3mn squared. And then divide it using the laws of exponents. No? So we have square root of 24 over 3 is 8. And then m squared over m is m. Kasi we have 2 minus 1. No? That is simply 1. So di na natin siya susulat. And we have n over n squared. So here we have 1 minus 2. The answer is n raised to negative 1. So we have a negative exponent. So take a look at the quotient. Simplifying this, no? According to laws of exponent, if you have a negative exponent, you will be getting its reciprocal. So the denominator here is 1. Si n raised to negative 1, mapupunta siya dun sa denominator. So we have 8m over n. And then, magiging positive na si 1, of course, kasi you did get its reciprocal na. And then, take a look at this if you have anything na pwede pa i-simplify. So, meron bang square root si 8? I believe wala kasi hindi naman perfect square si 8. Pero meron bang factor na perfect square si 8? Yes, meron. And that is 4. No, so we need to factor out 8 and it will become 4 times 2. M cannot be simplified, so tabi natin siya kay 2 which is not a perfect square. Over n, n cannot also be simplified, no? So simplifying this, we have square root of 4, that is 2. And then we have square root of 2m over n. So this is now our answer. But again, when we talk about simplifying radicals kasi, di ba nasabi ko last time, na if the denominator is a radical, you need to still rationalize that denominator. So you have 2 square root of 2m over n. So kung napapansin nyo, it can also be written like this. 2 square root of 2m over square root of n. And this denominator, we cannot write that like that. Okay, we cannot write the denominator like this. Bawal maging radical yung denominator. So what will happen is we need to rationalize the denominator. So pag ni-rationalize natin yung denominator, isip tayo ng radical na pwede nating i-multiply kay square root of n para magi siyang perfect square. I believe that is square root of n also. No, square root of n over square root of n. So, kung i-multiply natin yung denominator kay square root of n, of course, pati numerator i-multiply din natin kay square root of n. So, it will become like this. So, we have square root of 2m times square root of m. So, 2m times n, the answer is 2mn. Okay? All over square root of n times n is n squared. So, now, simplifying this, taking a look at this answer, pwede natin na kunin yung square root ni n squared sa denominator. So, we have 2 square root of 2mn all over square root of n squared is simply n. The numerical coefficient is in the numerator. It should be in the numerator. So, therefore, this is now your quotient na naka-simplified na. And it should be always in simplified form. Next, we have this given. So, sabi dito, sa nakasulat sa taas, if the given has a binomial denominator, you're going to conjugate the denominator by following this pattern. So, yeah. This is like the sum and difference of two binomials. So, if the given is like this, negative 6 over 5 plus square root of 7. Kung mapapansin ninyo, kaya sinabi na if you have a binomial denominator, binomial na siya, at the same time you have a radical in your binomial denominator, what will happen is that you need to get the conjugate of that denominator and you need to multiply it by the numerator and the denominator. So when we say conjugate, you're just going to copy each term in the binomial. So we have 5 and then square root of 7, but then you will be getting the opposite sign. So ang conjugate ni 5 plus square root of 7 is 5 minus square root of 7. And that will be the term that you're going to multiply in the numerator as well as in the denominator. And then multiplying this, we have negative 6 times quantity 5 minus square root of 7. All over, if we multiply conjugates kasi, you're going to apply yung special products regarding the sum and difference of two binomials. So what will happen is that you will be getting the square of the first term. So the first term is 5, and then they are always separated by a minus sign, yung product nila. And then you will be getting the square of the second term. So square root of 7 squared. And then simplifying this, distribute natin si negative 6 each term inside the parenthesis. So negative 6 times 5, we have negative 30. And then negative 6 times negative square root of 7. So technically, ang numerical coefficient ni square root of 7 is negative 1. So negative 6 times negative 1, the answer is positive 6. And then copy natin yung radical square root of 7. All over, 5 squared is 25 minus square root of 7 squared. That is equal to square root of 49, and square root of 49 is equal to 7. So here, as you can see, pwede pa natin i-simplify yung denominator. So we have negative 30 plus 6 square root of 7. 25 minus 7, that is equal to 18. And observing the constants as well as the numerical coefficient here in our current answer, kung napapansin nyo, we have negative 30, 6, and 18. Technically, si 30, si 6, and si 18, they are divisible by a number. So, meron silang common factor na pwede pa nating i-divide for us to simplify them. So, what is the GCF of 30, 6, and 18? So I believe that is 6, no? So divide natin si 30 or si negative 30, si 6 at si 18 kay 6 pa para ma-simplify natin siya. So negative 30 divided by 6, that is negative 5. 6 divided by 6, that is positive 1. So just write the radical. Kasi hindi na natin nilalagay yung 1. All over 18 divided by 6, the answer is 3. So therefore, this is now our quotient. So we have a negative 5 plus square root of 7 all over 3. We have no problem because the denominator is a whole number. Unlike example number 2 now, we need to rationalize the denominator kasi the denominator there is a radical. Next, we have another example wherein the denominator is a binomial. So I'm going to rewrite example number 4. We have 2 square root of 5 minus 3 all over 3 minus 2 square root of 2. So again, we need to conjugate the denominator by finding its conjugate. So we need to multiply that conjugate to the numerator as well as to the denominator. So the conjugate is 3 plus 2 square root of 2. And then multiply natin in the numerator using FOIL method. Kasi as you can see, they are both binomials. So therefore, you're going to use FOIL method. So I'm just going to rewrite it. Yan. All over this 1. So the conjugates, pag sinimplify natin siya, kunin natin yung square ni first term, always separated by a minus sign, and then the square of the second term. So here, using FOIL method, we need to get the product of the first terms. So we have 2 square root of 5 times 3, so we have 6 square root of 5. And then the product of the outer terms. So you have 2 square root of 5 times 2 square root of 2. So the answer here is 4, which is positive, no? Positive 4. Square root of 5 times 2 is 10. So we have 4 square root of 10. And then we need to multiply the inner terms, which is negative 3 times 3. The answer is negative 9. Yes, negative 9. And then we need to multiply the last terms, which is negative 3 and positive 2 square root of 2. So the answer here is negative 6. As you can see, negative 3 times 2 is negative 6. And then copy natin si square root of 2. That will be the product for that. And here, in this part, we need to simplify. So 3 squared is 9 minus 2 squared is 4. And then square root of 2 squared is square root of 4. Square root of 4 is simply 2. So 4 times 2, that will result to 8. So we have 9 minus 8. And 9 minus 8 is simply equal to 1. So I'm not going to elaborate it na, no? So kapag 1 yung denominator, you can just not write the denominator at all. And this is now the quotient. So observing the quotient, wala na tayong pwedeng i-simplify pa. So sa radicals, they are already simplified. Square root of 5, simplified na yan. Square root of 10, simplified na yan. Square root of 2 din. And wala tayong pwedeng ipag-combine kasi they are not similar radicals. Therefore, this is now the quotient. So that's it. That is how you divide radicals.